How does the Tritype affect the directions of growth and stress? Do those continue to be based on the initial type? It always amazes me how many people don't realize that that was an error that in 1971, Naranjo hypothesized in a study group one evening, I wonder if it's easier to move one way in integration and another in disintegration. And in that very same study group, he said, never mind, it doesn't work. But someone wrote a note of integration, disintegration, and that was Father Robert Oakes. And when he disseminated the Enneagram, he included it. So it's too bad, but what Naranjo said is that he immediately realized we use our lines of connection both when we're integrated and both when we're disintegrated. So if we're having a good day and we're confident, then whatever your type is, so I'll use my own as an 8, I don't go to 5 just in stress or integration. I use 5 to do a lot of my more interior work. It's always moving from my 8 point. So we have our point, and then we have the movement, in my case to 2 and to 5, but it's always working. It's a trialectic system. It never stops. Now, how does that work when we have the Tritype? The same thing happens. You're using your line of connection. Remember, it's a trialectic system. You can never just have 1 or 2 of something. So you have your wing. You have your type and 2 wings. You have your type and 2 lines of connection. You have 3 instincts. You have 3 tritypes. And they're all working on the premise of a trialectic system, which the Enneagram is. So the creator of the Enneagram of Personality, that's now 50 years old, from Oscar Ichazo, is trialectic. So if you're ever wondering or working out something you've noticed, if it's true in 3 centers, it is definitely 3 different centers. It's definitely going to be something very viable and will probably work. And people that have found that, beginning with Kathy Hurley and Theodore Donson, or he was Ted Dobson at the time he did it, they looked at the Hornevians and applied a Hornevian type to each center. And Don and Rusty went on to do the same and expand it more. Naranjo came up with the antipodes, which is the types that look alike. They're hexad types, 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7. Not the primary, 3, 6, 9, but the hexad types, the 1 and 5, axis of control, 4 and 8, axis of intensity, and 2 and 7, axis of connection, moving away from and towards connection, away from and towards intensity, away from and towards control with the 1 and the 5. So all are important. And so Naranjo did that long ago. And then Riso and Hudson added the type, those 2 types, and the center that is dealing with that issue. So in terms of the primary triad, 3, 6, 9, what type is focused on control and controlling their image and being the best? 3. So 3 links up with the 1 and 5. Then what type is reactive and intense, like the 4 and 8? That's a center type, the 6. And then what type is the easy relating type of the 3, 6, 9? that matches the 2 and 7, wants connection like the 2 and 7, the 9. See how it unfolds? Nothing is random. And if you really understand the centers, you won't struggle with what type is, how to type, let me put that way. You really be able to look at lookalikes and see why they're different and how to know whether they're in a self-pres 4, looks like a sexual 8. And once you understand the centers at a core level, which I'm going to cover in the centers 5-week intensive. Now, it really needs about 15 weeks, but I'll be able to give you a lot of key pointers as to how to look at those lookalikes and land more accurately on the correct type. And most of us, when we make a mistake on our type or tritype, it's because we didn't have all the information, or we don't know the fundamentals behind this system and why each center is the way it is. We just have a rough idea. And you have to remember that Ichazo did not disseminate the information to anyone other than his group. And Naranjo was teaching after he left. He went to the training with everyone in the 10-month training in Arica, Chile in 1970, in July of 1970. The following spring, April, he was teaching the Enneagram. How good were any of us after less than a year? He was 5 months in the Arica training and then left for a number of reasons. So after 5 months of a training that included many things, but they were grouped by their type, would you know as much as you know 5 years later, 10 years later of anything? No, you get better. And that's what Naranjo did. He got better and better and better. And with the instincts, another area of confusion is that he didn't teach the Enneagram subtypes in their entirety till 1996. When I had done my work and Enneagram Monthly asked him if he would go into the instinctual subtypes and commented that I had written this book, and I gave him my work. He validated what I did. In fact, to the point where he asked me to put in a paragraph on each subtype based on listening to him, because he had not published anything, and he was not ready to do so, because they said, wait a minute, you want me to publish something you've never published? And he said, yes, you always give attribution, and I'm just not going to do it for a while because I'm still mulling it over. I'm still trying to determine more about the kind of tells, so to speak, the trademark elements that you can just see. All of a sudden, someone's talking in a certain way, and you think, oh my goodness, this person actually is a 4, not a 6. And that's what he did with Hitler, for example. He had Hitler as a 6, and most of the world thinks that Hitler was a 6 because of his training. But once you really look at the passion for protest of 4, which he learned much more about, and more information came out about Hitler, then it became clear. Now, I, of course, see it as a tritype issue where he has both in the tritype, and why it can be confusing to others.